The Endurance E-Racing World Championship Le Mans 24 Hours is brought to you by ESR Esports Network, Leap Gaming, Sim Lab, Husingfeld, Simplexity, Acetech, and AMD Ryzen Radio.
Welcome back to the GTR 24H EEWC final round here from Le Mans. Still just under 18 hours to go in this race. A very, very long time indeed, although we have completed 6 hours, which makes it sound just a little bit more better on these guys, I guess. But we still have these battles continuing on, and that is good to see. We've had them pretty much for the whole of the race so far, and we have LMP2 and GTE fighting it out.
Yeah, we certainly do. Good battles all around here, up and down the field, throughout multiple cars and classes. So it's good to see. As yeah, there are a couple of battles going on. The number 33 of Ardrini just getting or trying to get past one move as well. So yeah, quite a few cars all about, and now one move are trying to have I believe this is the Varga car of Visner as well, trying to get involved. So this is pretty much a three-way fight coming into the Mulsanne corner. But we also have to look at Checkits as well, who's also having some battles himself. So number of drivers here trying to have some battles, but we're now looking at Guilherme Mas and Daniel Visner, who are coming up towards Indianapolis corner. Really difficult corner to overtake. Visner's going left, he's going right, and now he's pulling out to the outside to try and get alongside before Indianapolis. Can he do it around the outside of it? Contact. Oh, they both miss out on contacts, and he manages to make it move there on the brakes instead. And now Mas is going to have to try and get past into Arnage. Not always the easiest corner, because that corner is so easy to lock up either the front or the rear tyres. So there goes Visner for another position, which will be 5th in class.
Yeah, he has indeed got through now for Varga, and he's got Ardrini right in front of him. But let's not forget that Drive Game Seat have got a drive-through penalty to serve, and that will really hamper them in this race. So we'll be looking out for that, and when they do indeed serve it, as Tony Jansen, I'm seeing, is having a few problems out there at the moment. Or he was just a moment ago. He's no longer with Blake Checkits and Mikael Mole. Sorry, don't know why though. Has he pitted or something? Because actually we are getting towards that kind of time. It's kind of towards pit stop time, and it looks like a pit stop distance to Fair Racing Team at the moment. 1 minute 12 to Musto, but Drillers have got past Mole in the break.
Yeah, Drillers did get past Mole, so I wonder if Mole made a mistake, because Drillers was obviously behind Jansen as well, so that's effectively 2 places lost there for Mole. So I do think maybe there was a little bit of a mistake. Obviously we had a break, so did slightly miss that potentially, but either way, that is the situation that we are in. And now Checkers is trying to catch down Prosim, who are 11 and a bit seconds up the road. But yeah, we are getting to that, I guess, pit stop period where we're going to see some guys start to come in, and we will then be able to see roughly what they're going to do with their strategy. But here, Ben Crooks is now 29 seconds behind Quiegel, so still really starting to lose that time now to the Drillers in the hypercar category.
Yeah, I did wonder about that when they swapped their driver. Ibrahim Khan is undoubtedly Sewell's fastest driver in this race, but Ben Crooks is not quite as quick, and so that means that he's losing well, he's not losing any time, but he should be gaining at this point, because we think that he has got new tyres on, and actually he did come out about 15 or 20 seconds behind, didn't he? So he's losing time at the moment. It's up towards 30 as it stands right now, which is not good news for him at all, because he needs to be gaining at this point in the race, if anything, not losing it. 28 seconds is the margin for now. But yeah, an interesting little spell there with a lot of battles going on, particularly in LMP2. But the leader in GTE is now in. They're stretching their tyres and they're stretching their field quite a long way on Musto, despite the fact they are comprehensively quicker than everybody else. It's quite strange to see at the moment, but very, very encouraging for them.
That's really tight. So Barbosa might go off here in Mulsanne corner. Can he keep it? Yes, he can. That was a little bit awkward with one of the Corvettes going really slowly. Who is that? It's on the Nightmare cars, not Nightmare cars, the Dream Team. It must be the 766 Dream Team going very slowly, coming up towards Indianapolis. Went really slowly, almost put Barbosa off the track. Barbosa managed to keep it on. This could give Liam Rance a bit of an opportunity. However, Liam has sat here for a little bit now, as they've been pulling away from World of Sim Racing.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been tucked in behind for now, but let's not forget, I think that Rance is on newer tyres at this stage of the race, or they're on the same tyres.
Slow car in sector 2.
And that is for the Nightmare car, which is going slowly, and that is the leader at the moment in GT3. If that is indeed correct, I believe that
Dream Team, sorry.
Unless it's the Dream Team, sorry. They're not having a dream race, are they? I'm afraid it's going very slowly for them. But GT3, interestingly, just while we're mentioning them, 11 seconds is separating the Nightmare car and Glam Racing. That's first to third, separated by 11 seconds. The gap to those in behind, like Sim Racing Motorsport, Elvira in Chelsea driving that car at the moment, he's in fourth, and he's over 3 minutes, nearly a whole lap behind the leading trio. And Boya Malam is now 5 laps down, as he reported earlier on.
Now in sector 3. Slow car is now in sector 3.
Yeah, as you reported earlier on, Boya Milan is 5 laps down and 2.5 minutes behind the next car. He's in 9th in class.
Oof. That's always LMP2 stop there on
Taylor Lane, I think. Taylor Lane in 12th place in class, 18th overall. I believe that was him stopped, and it was indeed. Saw a yellow flag through the forward chicane for some reason, and that was it. Doesn't look like he's picked up any damage though.
Yeah, that maybe he just had a bit of a spin there on the curb or something like that, but just caught it as he was a little bit off. So he's going to have to try and get back up to speed. As Barbosa still leading the way from Liam Rance, as the track is clear, so the 766 must have got back to the pit lane, which is good to see for them. Now, I wonder if Liam Rance can actually get past, because he's sat here for quite a while. He's lost that, element of surprise that can happen when obviously you catch up to someone quickly. And he has just been there for a little while, so he needs to try and do something if he wants to get past, because obviously this is still for a decent position, so they need to be trying to sort this out. They can't really sit there for the whole race and potentially get involved in traffic, because one issue is now they are so close together that when Taylor Lane catches them back up, that can get awkward with traffic when P2's trying to get past 2 cars at once.
Yeah, and that can cause accidents, and we've seen that a little bit earlier on. It looks like he's going to clear both of these at the same time. He's going to have to go to the right hand side of Rance and to the left hand side of Barbosa, but that is all okay. I think that with these 3 driver swaps which happened between Deuce's Satellite and World of Sim Racing, Barbosa, Rance and Berenguer obviously got in the cars, but Berenguer for some reason lost 25 seconds in the pit stop, and I can't get to the bottom of why. It can't be that these 2 didn't take tyres and he did, because he's still losing time. So why on earth did World of Sim Racing lose 25 seconds in the last pit stop?
Well, I guess we're gonna have to, find out. But I mean, obviously, tyres are probably one of the better ways. Could just be driver as well. As Liam Rance is now getting really close, coming into Mulsanne corner, but he's always touching him actually coming into the back. But this could be what I mentioned earlier about Blake Checketts. He now could actually be too close coming up towards Indianapolis, although he does have about 2 or 3 car lengths between them, because you do want to get the slipstream, as I said, so you're getting almost a slingshot past, so the overspeed is quite high. But he's really in the slipstream now. Is he going to go left? Is he going to go right? As they get up into 6th gear, it's about 300 kilometers an hour as we come towards the King of Indianapolis. Can he go round the outside? Yes, and big move there by Liam Rance, because that is now up into 2nd place in the GTE category. Looking really good for them. For Satellite, And now does Joao have anything to come back at that? He did sit there for quite a while, did Liam, so he definitely has the speed to keep up, but now does he have the speed to pull away? Now he's got the position.
Very important pass there from Liam Rance to get through, and now we'll really see how much extra pace he does have, if indeed he does have any extra pace on the likes of Joao Barbosa, who is now behind him, of course. But in LMP2, we have reached lap 100, which means pit stops are currently underway. Michi Hoyer has taken over from Jurne Simonjic, and now they are a whole pit stop in front of Team Rookie Monsters. And they only have to get a pit stop ahead now of Eidos Motorsport, and they will have done it to everybody. But Eidos are coming in at the same time as Burst at the moment, whereas Rookie Monsters are actually taking it one lap longer, and that is why Henry Jury is currently 5 seconds off the lead of the race, and Michi Hoyer is now in for his third stint of, third tyre stint of this race, but his second actual driving stint. He double stinted his tyres in the first time around, and I'm presuming that Simonjic did the same. So now it's the turn of Michi Hoyer to do it for another set of tyres. But yeah, very frequent pit stops in LMP2, and also pretty frequent battles going on out there at the moment. Guillaume Mas is just behind the Prosim car. Those guys sharing a rig, it seems, at the moment for the 007 car, but Mas is now not right in behind, but just 1.5 seconds in arrears.
And he's getting held up here a little bit, the driver in the Prosim car behind the Grand Effect GTE, and this has let Mas catch up a lot to have now. Mas will then be held up a tiny bit on the exit of Corvette. Prosim going off the track, probably even getting a cut track there. Now Mas is going to be all over the back of him, coming towards 4 chicanes. This could be quite an important move. Obviously, this is a battle for 6th and 7th, as someone just ahead is going into the pit lane. Not sure if they were a lap down. There might be a lap down. So now Mas building up the slipstream. You see Blake Checkis in the background as well. So these guys are still fighting for position. Checkis is not out of this just yet, and I think it was Arduini going back into the pit lane, maybe to serve his drive-through or to serve the pit stop that he couldn't serve because of the drive-through potentially. But I think he's dropped down there because I believe he was just ahead of these guys, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, these guys now fighting for 5th in class.
Yeah, they are indeed, and that was, well, I'm not really sure which of those it is for Arduini, whether it's the pit stop or the drive-through, but it is about on time for a pit stop. Yeah, he's it's not off schedule if he were to make a stop now, but obviously he has to serve that drive-through. We haven't seen him do it yet, so he's going to be running out of time. But Guillaume Mas now right up behind the Prosim car. He's going to get to the inside line into the first chicane, and he's going to be into 5th place in LMP2. A nice, easy slipstreaming manoeuvre into the first chicane, and there's not really much you can do about that when you're the Prosim car in that situation.
Yeah, Mas looks like the slightly quicker driver at the moment, and we'll see if he can now pull away, getting up into that 5th place in class. Obviously, we'll see just how that works out. Henry Jury is in the pit lane, along with, I can't quite see who that is, but also his sister teammate and one of the Corvettes as well. I think that may be one move, not one move. I don't know. Well, someone else is in the pit lane.
Arduini, I think. Oh no. Oh yeah.
It is Francesco Leone.
Yeah.
For Musto, who is in the pit lane as well. So now Peter Schultz is going to come round to retake 2nd place, with Henry Jury coming back out. Again, no, Robert Pawn. So they have swapped drivers there in the number 37. And that will be a gap of around 17 to 18 seconds by the time they get up to speed. So Eidos still looking pretty good for this 2nd place at the moment, with Schultz back in the car.
That Rookie Monsters car losing time again in the pit stop cycle. We've seen it so much as Rance and Barbosa are battling again. It's gone the way of Barbosa. Well, it was briefly, and then Rance got back in front. So these two are continuing to battle. It's letting Musto get up the road. It's letting World of Sim Racing close back in again, actually. So it's not beneficial for either of them. Also for the lead in GT3, DSR Nightmare and DIS SR Lab are fighting it out for the lead in that category. So there are fights going on pretty much everywhere at the moment, with Prosim also falling into the clutches of Drillers in LMP2.
And with Wanako having that issue, being so many laps down, this gives the opportunity for one of these teams to pick up a Le Mans victory that was looking fairly easy for Wanako. Obviously, the number 45 is also your championship leader, winning the first 3 races of the season. There's only 1 left, and now Checkers has caught up as well. So there's battles all over the place in all different categories, as the Nightmare car 777 has gone into the pit lane. So now the number 45 will go out and try and do some sort of undercut there. So yeah, plenty of action and battles going between a number of these drivers as Prosim and Drillers now come into the pit lane as well. So we're coming to this next round of pit stops as quite a few drivers are coming in at the moment.
Yeah, they are indeed nose to tail at the moment, with that's the Nightmare car just making their way in as well. You can just see the angle there that Blake Checkitts puts onto that car just to make sure that nobody comes in front of him and means that he can't get out again. So that's why they angle their cars at a jointy angle, which looks a bit strange at first, but once you understand why they do it, then it suddenly becomes a lot more understandable as to Drive Game Seat take positions from both Prosim and Drillers. So I would suggest that that was only a drive-through that they took. Now they've got to serve their actual stop, maybe, but there are quite a long... I don't really know. But either way, they are in 6th place at the moment, and we'll wait and see where they come out when they've served all their penalties and things like that. Further down the order, Barbosa looks like he's finally let it go, even though he was very close to Rance and actually had a real go overtaking him into the Porsche curves. He's now starting to drop back, although as I say that, Rance hits another piece of traffic and the battle is on again.
Yeah, this is what the traffic does, and that is one of the SR Lab. I don't know, it's 45. It's the other car, the 46, I believe. As we come down into Mulsanne corner, Barbosa just being fairly kind on the old brake pedal, as they now have the Seawolf Net Race car coming up behind as well. 3 wide, 3 different categories, which is always good to see, coming up towards Indianapolis. And now Barbosa trying to get the slipstream, the long slipstream, off that hypercar to do anything. But as you see, the straight line speed between the GTE and GT3 isn't really that big, as Vargas Sim Racing slide through there with Daniel Wisner now coming up in towards Indianapolis as well. But you can see it's only a few car lengths different in terms of top speed between GTE and GT3 during that whole Indianapolis straight. So that just shows you how difficult it can be and why Liam lost so much time in that second Mulsanne chicane. There really isn't that much difference in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's almost like, I know that this is not what the categories are officially called, but it's almost like GT Pro and GT Am in real life, really. I know they are completely different cars in the GTR 24H, and that's the way it's meant to be. But you know, it's close between the two, and it makes Lappery overtaking pretty difficult. And that's why in the olden days, when we used to have the older LMP2 cars, they weren't very quick on the straight. They were not very good at getting past the GT cars, and that's why a lot of accidents used to happen, because they would be diving into the corners and things like that. So that's all been ironed out ever so slightly now. But yeah, the GTEs and the GT3s aren't that different in terms of performance. And earlier on in the race, Boya Milan was 6th in the GTE category, despite the fact he's in a GT3 car, which shows just how close they actually are. Did
you just say Lappery?
Yes.
Is this a new word that I need to know?
I thought everyone knew that. I thought that was a common phrase, but
that's in my dictionary of words for commentary.
I've heard that. I swear I've heard that loads of times before, but there you go.
That's a first for me, but that's a very good way of putting it, actually, as that can be a deciding factor many times, especially for the faster categories, who then get caught up on slow traffic, as we saw there. But Liam Rance has now pulled away a little bit, well over a second to Barbosa, so I think that battle is pretty much stopped for the time being, and Sassai are looking good for second place at the moment. So yeah, they're doing pretty good there for second place in the number 65, but do not count our juices by any means, because they are very experienced and very good team who have plenty of time. We've got still over 17 hours left of this race.
The Wolf Net Race are into the pit lane with Ben Crooks from that car now. David Yunt has been in a little bit earlier on, but now Ben Crooks is into the pit lane, leaving Martin Hemmingson. Jeroen Kweekel. I'm still in, my head's still in an hour ago. Jeroen Kweekel now driving that car and putting it to good effect as well, putting more distance into Crooks, who is now leaving the pit. Leaving the pit lane and back out onto the circuit. Over 2 minutes now down on Kweekel. We'll have to see what happens through this pit stop cycle, but it's looking better and better for Drillers Esports. However, as we said that with Monaco pretty much throughout the whole of the race so far, and then they had that issue, so it's never over until it's over, and obviously there will still be nails being bitten throughout the whole of this race for Drillers Esports, no matter what kind of lead they've got.
Yeah, it's not looking too good for the number 68 E-Team Brit either, who's now well over 40 seconds behind David Yunt. So they've really dropped off since Bobby Trunley got out of the car. So that hypercar class has sort of opened up a little bit in the last couple of hours.
It is indeed, yeah, and that means over a 2 minute lead for Kweekel, and then more than a lap back from Crooks to Yunt there. And yeah, as you say, ever since the E-Team Brit actually started to change drivers, and they've really fallen away. Sorry, you caught me there when I was having a massive mouthful of food in my mouth, so
fair enough.
That's why I was not talking. But
sorry,
but
we're getting to that time of day, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Over a quarter of the way through this race. Drivers have already got their lights on, and was told about 10 minutes ago now that there was some cloud cover and weather front coming in. So I do hope, to be honest, that maybe we get some rain in this race, because as much as I don't like driving the rain myself that much, it's always from a spectator's and a broadcaster's point of view, it's always quite interesting to see how those drivers adapt. So hopefully we do potentially get some weather fronts going a bit later on. But I just wanted to do a little check-up on Borja Milan, see what he's doing. Back in that car, obviously, after having that little issue. I still don't know if they blew the engine or run out of fuel or whatever, but either way they stopped, and they are now back into 38th overall, which is 8th in class, and they are still over two minutes behind the next car.
Jesus, that Musto car was wiggling under brakes a lot there, just in front of Borja Milan. And they're 6 laps down on the leaders, by the way, are Musto GD Esports. After leading earlier on, had a big crash out of the second chicane, and that has caused them to drop down the order quite catastrophically. Monaco looking to put a lap on them here, and they're just going side by side while the Musto Ferrari is just in the foreground. So a bit of a team opportunity for a photo, but in his attempts not to crash into his teammate, Ochi Pinto nearly crashed into himself there, into the first chicane. But Borja Milan is safely through, and you can just see he's so much quicker than the Musto car. That was one of the fastest cars in Mercedes a little bit earlier in the race. Maybe it's not anymore because of the issues that they've had so far in this race, but you can just see how quick Borja Milan is. He's not actually setting the fastest laps in the class. That last lap, that went to Glam Racing with a 56.5, but he is still insanely quick, Borja Milan, but he's got so much work to do. It seems very, very unlikely that he's going to get anything from this race now.
Yeah, let's just call it 5 laps to be nice. That is best part of 20 minutes. So 19 minutes, give or take. So 90 minutes is a long time to catch up. 90 minutes on pure pace is going to be something quite ridiculous to the end of the race. Many seconds a lap, I would assume. So yeah, going to be a little bit difficult for him and the team to do that, but you might as well try. You never know what's going to happen, and just keep on going, just see what happens. And if you get lucky with a certain situation, then that is obviously props to you for staying in the race and trying to further your abilities. We spoke to Ernest Lappins earlier, and he was saying that one of their things now is basically just hoping for some sort of red flag or anything to bunch the field back up and potentially get laps back, for instance. But yeah, that's always the long shot. You want to be keeping yourself in the race, and unfortunately Wanaka obviously made a bit of a mistake, and that's why they're a bit further down.
You say Lappins was hoping for a safety car a little bit earlier on, when it would actually really disadvantage them, because they are now a lap behind Burst Edge Esports, who have lapped everybody up until P5. So one mover still on the lead lap at the moment, but they are behind. Who is that? Drive Game Seat are now not a lap on the same lead lap anymore as Burst Edge Esport, and that is not good news for them at all. So if there were to be a red flag or something like that, then that would mean there would be a lap down on everybody on the lead lap anyway, and that would be a complete disaster, because they're definitely not going to win the race from a lap down. I say that, but anything can happen, of course, and it usually does, especially when you curse things like that. But now, as we just improve or complete another half an hour in this race, we're going to take another quick commercial break. When we come back, we will have more racing here from Le Mans, the final round of the EEWC here on GTR 24H.
The Endurance E-Racing World Championship Le Mans 24 Hours is brought to you by DSR Esports Network, Fleet Gaming, Sim Lab, Husingfeld, Simplexity, Acetech, and AMD Ryzen Radio.
Do you hate watching laggy screens in tournaments on 13-inch screens? Oh my god!
Of course you do. But you don't have to worry about that anymore.
He has a jump, son!
Simplexity is a Danish designer and manufacturer of high-grade sim racing platforms. Their 3 different levels of platforms come in a variety of colors and configurations. Choose from the V4, built from 40x40mm extruded aluminium profiles, the V8 built from 80x40mm profiles, and the high-tier V12 built from 160x40mm extruded aluminium profiles. Prices range from 470 to 750 euros. Go to facebook.com/simplexity.eu and start a messenger chat to inquire more about the options for colors and customization.
Welcome back to the GTR 24H EEWC Round 4, the final round here from Le Mans. 24 hours of racing here to complete, and we are about 17 and a half hours away from the finish line. That's at 1 p.m. European time tomorrow. Me and Cam got our time zones wrong a little bit earlier today. We thought it started at midnight European, but it actually starts at and finishes, of course, at 1 p.m. European time. We've discussed a lot about the weather throughout this race, actually, and so far these drivers have gotten away without it. But I think Alex Skinner now can give us a bit of a view about what we can expect in the next few hours here at Le Mans with regards to the weather. Well, apparently there's a mic issue, so we can't do it yet. But we'll wait a sec, and then we'll get it ready. But yeah, Alex is going to give us a bit of an update on what the weather is like.
I hope it comes.
Yeah, I hope that the rain comes as well, to be honest, because it would be very exciting. But as you said, you as a driver wouldn't like it, and I'm sure these drivers mostly wouldn't like it either.
Yeah, it changes the driving style quite a lot, because you have to end up being absolutely perfect with your racing line, because even when it's raining, the actual racing line itself is still less wet because of the wet tires displacing the water. So you have to always keep it on that racing line, maybe 10 centimeters either side, otherwise you get onto a more wet part and then you just go for a spin. So it can be a little bit frustrating, but then that is when the better drivers come out.
Yeah, it is indeed, and it's a really, really intricate process that you have to go through. But for the moment, it is dry. We'll get a view on what's to come here in a few moments. But for 26th overall now, we do have a bit of a fight developing in the GTE category. ID Sim Sport looking to make some progress on the number 78 per B cars entry. Both BMWs, actually, these two, and the ID Sim Sport car is an Aston Martin, but either way, not the most popular of cars to choose. The Porsche seems to be a much quicker option, and so does the Ferrari so far in this race.
Everything okay? Is it working?
Yeah, that's that's why they're up towards the front of the field, and that's why they're mostly winning this race. That's why they're the most chosen. So anyway, it looks like we've got the mics ready and sorted. Hopefully that we are ready now, and Alex has got himself together. No, he hasn't. We'll wait for Alex to get himself together, and then we'll have a view of the weather. But ID Sim Sport versus Per B, it's a little bit further down the order, a little two lesser known teams, I guess it's fair to say, but still GTE providing some action once again.
Yeah, GTE is certainly doing that during this race, not only the guys at the top, but also guys a bit further down as well. And maybe we're going to see a bit of an overtake coming up on this lap. Obviously, ID Sim Sport, they've actually got quite a few cars, quite a few entries over the various cars during the GTR 24H, and now we're seeing the Aston Martin get that big slipstream on the BMW. That is way more than I was expecting now, coming down towards the second chicane. That was a huge overspeed. It didn't look like there was going to be too much of a difference, but maybe the BMW there struggling a little bit for top speed, and they get past there for what is 7th place in class.
Well, I've got a bit of a weather update here, guys, from our local weather couch here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. As you can see on the right here, a massive weather front seems to be coming here towards the circuit. We're not sure how long it's going to take, probably potentially an hour or two coming through, but it just seems to be the rain is on its way, and I feel it's going to really throw things up in the strategy. All of these teams are going to be looking, but it looks to be potentially coming in from the east coast side of America, coming over the Atlantic, potentially now heading across the circuit and up towards potentially even the United Kingdom, but it looks like it's going to be coming across the circuit anytime soon.
massive ominous band of rain actually coming towards the circuit, and that's a little bit earlier than I was expecting actually. I was expecting some light rain about this time, just as the sun is going down, but now I was expecting it to be a little bit drier with the heavy rain coming at about 5 a.m. I saw at the forecast this morning, but it seems that the forecasts have been shunted forward dramatically, and now the rain is possibly coming a lot quicker than we thought.
Yeah, that is the main thing with a 24-hour race, is during that time span, even in, you know, the days before, the weather can change so quickly, because obviously over a 24-hour period, if it moves 6 hours, you might still get it, whereas if you have like a 1-hour race or like a two-hour race, such as in Formula 1, we often see it rain, you know, sometimes just after the race, because your specific window of your racing is quite short, whereas in a 24-hour race, even if it shifts back a few hours, it doesn't matter, you're still going to get it, it'll just be later on in the race, which is obviously the intricacies of a 24-hour race, which is why GTR 24H obviously has that in its name, with endurance racing being at the heart of it, and weather would be an awesome factor to bring in as we go under 17 and a half hours left in the race. But these guys still battling away and trying to see what position they can get themselves into before that does potentially happen.
Yeah, ID Simsport did get themselves actually in front there. They're ahead of Per B now, and just stuck behind one of the GT3 cars as it stands at the moment. Not sure which one it is, but one of them anyway. Just stuck in behind for the moment, going down the S's and towards Tete Rouge. But yeah, still a very long way to go in this race, as we keep repeating ourselves, but it's still true. Over 17 hours left in this race. Got 17 hours and 20, and obviously we've got to go through the darkness and possibly the rain as well, which is all going to change things throughout the day. As now down the inside goes the ID Sim Sport car on one of those GT3s, and he's made the move down into the first Mulsanne chicane, and he can carry on with his day really. So where's the next battle going to come from? I find myself asking. Well, Varga were actually in front of Prosim, I believe, beforehand, but I think they've made a mistake on the last couple of laps with Marcel Cincic. He did a 3-minute 42, which is 10 seconds slower than those around him, and now he's kind of sandwiched between the Prosim car and the Fair Racing Team car, so don't know what happened there, but it seems like Cincic might have made a mistake.
He must have, to lose that sort of time, and he's just gone off there again in Indianapolis corner. So yeah, he's pushing quite hard to try and make that time back up, but sometimes you don't want to consolidate your issues and go off again. So he just needs to be a little bit careful with that. I'm surprised actually that this car isn't higher up than it would be. I believe that they've been lapped fairly comfortably now actually by Michi Hoyer. So yeah, they're not really doing quite as good a job as I expected them to.
No, not quite. And they're about 1.5 laps down now almost. Approaching, getting that way anyway. So yeah, comfortably being lapped. But don't forget, Varga had... Whoa, that was a slide. I thought he was going to end up in the wall at Corvette, but he stayed out of it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Comfortably lapped by Burst. Don't forget they had that little incident with Drillers and the Musto GD Esports GT3 car, where they got suspension damage, had to come into the pit lane off schedule and actually make that change. Actually, they pitted when they wanted to, on the lap they wanted to, but unfortunately it was for damage and not for a normal stop, so that's why they're so far down. But I think it's fair to say that they haven't had the best race since then, because they definitely didn't lose a lap in the incident. Maybe a minute and a half at the very worst, but yeah, it's just not been the race for them. You've kind of find this though, even though you might have the pace, you might have race-winning pace in these races, you still can't perform it really, because you're out of position, you're demotivated, you're annoyed at the incidents that have happened, and so you drive worse.
Very true. I know that position. When we had our race here last year, my team flight flag, I crashed the car at like silly o'clock in the morning, like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and we were just done by that point. And I know that feeling of trying to just get to the end of the race for the sake of finishing. It's quite difficult to keep motivating yourself, but fortunately it seems that they're still going. But whether you have the peak motivation and trying to do the best lap times you can, that is obviously a slightly different factor.
Pit stops have begun in GTE now as we're approaching another hour. Satellite Racing and World of Sim Racing both into the pit lane now. We'll see where they come out because they're about 20 seconds apart as they came in. What will the gap be when they go out again? And the pit stops in LMP2 have also begun, so this is going to be a quite busy pit lane time now, because you've got two classes of cars who are converging on a pit stop cycle at the same time, which is a recipe for disaster. Hopefully there isn't a disaster, but Cliff van der Vin has got into the Fair Racing Team car instead and replacing Tony Janssen, and Liam Rance and Jose Berenguer are both out of the pit lane once again, and World of Sim Racing cars finally getting out again. So no driver stops for those guys, but normal service has been taken and given to those cars, and they'll be back out there again.
Yeah, they certainly will, and they'll be going out once again. Was that Rance's first stint?
Yes.
That was his first stint, wasn't it? So yeah, this would be his second stint going out there, so this might be his last, depending if they're double or triple stinting. But once again, Rance, Barbosa and Berenguer they all started at the same time. They all swapped drivers at the same time, so they're all on a roughly similar strategy. It's just Rance has been the best so far for those three teams, but none of them can catch Brioni in the number 53 Musto car, which, remember, started from pretty much the back of the field after having an incomplete qualifying session. So they had some slower laps given to them to make up for that, which is why they started from the back, but they made their way to the front fairly swiftly, and it looks pretty good for them. However, I did see David Greco earlier in the comments saying, "Oh, don't talk about us." So try and
that as well.
Commentator's curse.
Yeah, we were talking about them a little bit earlier on, how they were doing so well to get ahead of all these teams, and he didn't want us to curse them at all. So we'll stop talking about them now, and we'll start talking about Marcel Cincing again, because he's closing on the Prosim car. We've seen this before as they come over the line once again to begin another lap. They can't be far away from pit stops, 1 or 2 laps time, but it looks like he's not even going to wait for the pit stops here. Cincing is a very fast driver indeed, and he is absolutely romping around there at the moment. Having made that mistake, he's a man on a mission now, and he's trying to get ahead of Prosim once again.
And he's caught up. It was about 5 seconds, really not too long ago. However, on the last lap, he was about just under 3 seconds quicker. So Cincing has got a lot of pace here. And now, does he have the slipstream now coming towards the first Mulsanne corner, Mulsanne chicane even? He's getting the slipstream. He's going to be quite late towards the braking zone, but I think he's just going to have enough of the overspeed to get himself at least alongside. So can he do it on the brakes? Yes, he can. Brakes way later than the Prosim car, and that is him up to 7th position in class. As on screen, Michi Hoyer still leading the way and still doing a really good job, although Jeroen Kwijko has just set a purple first sector for the hype cars, so he is doing a really good job out there, now leading by almost 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, he's really pushing it out there at the moment, Jeroen Kwijko, even though he is not quite or he doesn't need to do this with a 2.5 minute lead, although he will be into the pit lane very soon actually. Expecting him in I actually expected him in on the end of the last lap, but he's clearly going for one more. Can't get enough of driving out there at the moment, so he's decided that he wants to carry on for another one. A very strong team though, let's not forget, and we haven't even seen Timoteus Andonovski get into that car just yet. When he gets in, they will have completed their quartet of drivers with Cynic and Hemmingson. Obviously Kwijko now, and then Andonovski presumably will be next. But yeah, sharing it out very nicely, sharing the pace out quite nicely as well. They're very quick indeed. But yeah, purple sector of the whole race there for Kwijko, at least for the hypercars anyway, as Michi Hoyer indeed comes into the pit lane a lap, sorry, no, that is on schedule. With 110 laps completed, he will be coming in for just fuel on this one and double stint his tyres towards the next 10 laps.
Yeah, cars don't go up, so he is double stinting tyres, as you say. And now Peter Schultz, where's he? He's coming into Arnage, so we need to see, well, I guess, yeah, Hoyer's probably going to be a whole pit stop ahead, which is quite incredible, really. Because the cars behind aren't necessarily bad cars, especially that IDOS car. They've got some good drivers in there, but the Burst Edge Esports car has done very well so far, and he is revving up already, so he's just about to come out. So Mitch Hoyer retakes the lead quite comfortably, as Schultz is still in the S's section at the final part of the lap. So that Burst car really showing their dominance here in the LMP2, and they're just extending their lead as they go.
Yeah, they are. They're absolutely running away with this at the moment. It's not even close for the front of the field. I believe that those IDOS and Rookie Monsters cars do have to come in. But yeah, I think IDOS actually will be in at the end of this lap, going into the pit lane, but we'll find out, and they do indeed. Peter Schultz, after his first stint in that car, taken over from Luca D'Amelio a few moments ago. He's now completed 10 laps. He's presumably going to do 10 more on those tyres, as Rookie Monsters just stay out one more lap, and then they'll be in the lap or two afterwards. So yeah, pit stops beginning to happen in LMP2. And meanwhile, I want to take a look a little bit further down the order, but I was expecting DIS SR Lab to be a little bit closer to Glam Racing, but they've pulled out 30 seconds from somewhere, and that was a really close one early on, if you remember. But Glam Racing now are starting to fall back, as the other DIS SR Lab car, the 46, seems to have had a bit of an issue somewhere. Yellow flags flashing everywhere on the timing screens, but it looks like he might have been able to get going again. Whoever is driving that car, we believe they're using the same rig, so that is going to not cut down on their driver change times, because it gives you no advantage, but it still affects things quite substantially, as we discussed in the pre-race.
Yeah, certainly does. And yeah, this is just the yo-yo effect, really, of the cars, of endurance racing in general, really. It always goes back and forth, and works its way for sometimes driver gets a stint, they have a really good stint, they pull away 10 seconds, and then they swap drivers, and then that driver loses the 10 seconds. So sometimes it's hard to look at the gaps at a specific moment. You kind of have to look at how they evolve over the course of a couple of hours. But it seems those all those yellow flags got cleared, so whoever it was has been sorted out one way or another.
I believe now that as well, Ewan Creakle has been into the pit lane, and now he is back out again, 1 minute in front of Seawolf Net Race. And if Ben Crooks is one of the faster drivers in that car, then they have got cause for concern down there, I'm afraid, because otherwise, unless they can pick up the pace, Drillers are going to run away with this, especially with the drivers they have to come. But Wanako had this with G23. But now they are all the way down, 5 laps down, as we saw earlier on. They're closing in on the 46 DISSR lap car, who definitely went off last lap, by the way, 20 seconds off the pace. So they almost certainly had some kind of problem. And a little bit further down, another recovering car, Musto GD Esports, almost behind DSR Dreamteam. Both of those cars actually have had a pretty awful day of things. Dreamteam are having a pretty terrible season, actually, after having some good pace at some of the circuits. Are now really falling away, and they're falling into the clutches of Musto GD Esports, who have one of the best looking cars out there on the grid. You were commenting in the break, in the last commercial break to me, Cam, that the Mercedes does indeed look as improved and looks very good in Alpha 2 at the moment.
Yeah, those headlights are unreal on the Mercedes AMG, looking really, really good. And I think it was about a couple of months ago now, actually, there was a graphical improvement for R-Factor for various things, and you'll see the headlights look a lot better than they did a year ago. And that Mercedes, because it has the really big lights, a lot of teams in the Mercedes, in the Orica, for instance, in the McLaren, for instance, they have the really like slitty headlights, but these lights have big booming lights, such as the Porsche and the Orica. But it just seems to work really well on that Mercedes. So despite them being in 39th place overall, they're still looking pretty good as they do it.
Yeah, they are indeed, and they've just gained another position, actually, because Dream Team came into the pit lane on that occasion. So they're going to drop down the order now.
We got a battle for position. Ardrini and Prosim for 13th and 14th overall. Ardrini is starting to catch back up. And
I think he's made a mistake somewhere, actually.
Because he did a pit stop or a mistake. Or no, it was a mistake of being a 37, yeah, good spot.
Yeah, so lost 6 seconds on that last lap. He was kind of sandwiched between Varga and Prosim beforehand, and now he's behind Prosim. He's going to have to do all this work again. He's had a real up and down stint, really. He's done some great overtaking, had some great pace, but he's also made a few mistakes. And so he's kind of having to make... he's giving himself twice the work, really. If he cut out those mistakes, then he could be well off up the road, but here he is, stuck in behind Prosim, who have been mostly seeing cars pass them, but then they've overtaken cars when they've made mistakes. And so they feel a bit like a punch bag at the moment, really, because there's just so many cars that are overtaking them through no fault of their own, and this could be another one here now down into Mulsanne corner.
And he is getting right in the slipstream now. Excuse me, he's getting right in the slipstream now. The number 33 is Ardrini as he goes to the outside. That isn't really going to work, but if he sets this up nicely, he'll get a really good slipstream down towards Indianapolis corner, which he has pretty much done. So this is going to be a good opportunity, but he needs to do it and do it safely before hitting the brakes.
Yeah, it's a sketchy corners to go side by side, Indianapolis, and we've seen this before. So he's in the slipstream now, but can he get through? Prosim having to defend here once again. There's a big overspeed now towards the end of the straight. Does he go to the inside? Not quite. He's going to go for the outside, but he's going to back off also. And now he's going to have to look for another opportunity, maybe into the Porsche curves. But if you're making a move there, you're going to have to get it done before you actually get to the corner. Will there be a good enough run through Arnage? He's a little bit wide of the apex, actually, and Prosim should hold on into the Porsche curves. Meanwhile, while that battle is just backing off ever so slightly, we've got an update from Alexander van der Woude in the YouTube chat informing us that DISSR Lab didn't go for tyres on the last stop, whereas Glam Racing did, which is why they've turned out a good 35 seconds behind them. And also, there was a bit of a problem in the internet for Callum Wilson, so he is now out of the car straight away. Henrik Hoyer has got into that car as a kind of emergency backup because of those internet issues.
Yeah, that is something always... Prosim go into the pit lane, but that is something that we were mentioning earlier. The differences between a LAN race and an online race. Obviously, you don't have that. You don't have an issue with a driver swap necessarily at a LAN event, because obviously the driver just jumps out and gets straight in. So on the online situation, if a driver is having an issue with their internet, they physically can't connect to the server, then you do have to scramble and try and get someone else to get in the car. So good job for them sorting that out. But it also is just one of the things with it being an online race this year, not a LAN event.
Yeah, but it's all well and good fixing that now, but is that going to disrupt the strategy later on in the race? It was Henrik Hoyer set to drive through the middle of the night, and he was supposed to be resting now, and now instead he's driving now, and Callum Wilson's going to have to do so, but he can't, for whatever this is the kind of thing that, as you mentioned, it's not a LAN event this year, so it's the things to contend with that they don't normally have to do so. So yeah, that could be a problem down the line, actually, if they can't iron out their strategy, and if they all can't be flexible with their stints, because I know from personal experience trying to organise teams for races, trying to get the stints in, you can't always be that flexible, because you've also got I know things real life is a little bit on hold at the moment, kind of going on in slow motion, but people may still have things to do, things on, whatever, so they can't be quite as flexible as you would like, especially not as flexible as you would be in an LAN event, as we were talking about earlier. You can just go and grab somebody, really, to come and drive your car, because you're just there 24/7 anyway, throughout the whole of the race. So it's a bit of a different dynamic this year, but I think these guys are going to be able to adapt to it pretty well, because after all, it's how all of the other 24-hour races are run. It's this one is really unique in that respect.
Yeah, that is the great thing, really, of the DSR 24H, I guess, organisation as a whole, is these, the LAN events. It's such a different experience. Such a different experience. That experience that I had last year at the 2019 edition was like completely different to any race I've ever done, because you literally go there, you spend effectively a whole week by the time you get there, you know, day before, day after, etc. And obviously it's a 4-day event, so you literally spend a whole week out there, you know, for me in a foreign country, trying to sort things out, taking all your rig up there.
Broken down car.
You know, my car unfortunately did break on the way up there, so I had to put it in a Danish whatever you call it, a workshop, to be fixed while we were at the event. So all these things happen, and it's just a completely different experience to sitting at home. So obviously we look forward to the 2021 edition and what is going to be happening with that. Hopefully it is still able to go ahead because of, you know, obviously the whole circumstance in the world. But yeah, it is a completely different experience, and it's more like a real event. I think in general you take it that tiny bit more seriously, because you're literally there, you're investing your time and money to be there. I mean, I actually had an exam on the Thursday, no, sorry, on the Wednesday, but then which is the day that we were leaving, because obviously from the UK it takes ages to drive there. So I had to get that changed. I had to do it the day before on the Tuesday, because obviously otherwise I wasn't going to be able to make it. So there's all these things that you have to rearrange to do it, and you have to put in a lot of effort for it, and it's quite interesting. It's quite different, and hopefully to those of you who are watching and have not been to a LAN event, I do hope that you are able to get to one very soon, maybe including the 2021 edition of this event.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the real selling point of GTR 24H, and when the actual LAN event was cancelled and this event was going to be put online, I was a little bit worried for the amount of people who would actually want to race after that, because, as I said, it's the real selling point of this organisation. And but having said that, we've had the best grid we've ever had this season here in 2020. Nick Newcomb in particular has done a fantastic job recruiting teams and getting people on board, and other people behind the scenes as well. Obviously John and Peter have played their role as well, but it's been a great job from everybody to pull together and actually get everybody here. 43 cars on the grid for this race. That is incredible, considering everything that has happened this year, and considering that the main draw of this organisation and this event is that it's a LAN event. The fact that it's not, and they've still been able to get 43 cars on the grid, is fantastic. And we've still got 42 cars left in this race, which is also fantastic, and a brilliant prospect for the rest of this race, which is about to cross over. Another hour, 17 hours to go, is about to be crossed, and while we do so, we're just going to take another quick commercial break. We'll be back here in a few moments' time here at GTR 24H for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the final race of the EEWC 2020.